Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by apologizing for our late start. We're waiting for everybody to arrive and to sort out some technical issues we're experiencing so that our international audiences who are here can join us online via Zoom. Today we're gathered here for a restitution lab. A restitution lab being a laboratory which we're organizing for a discussion centered on restitution, reparation, and rehabilitation. As you all know, there's been an international issue at the front burner to do with the return of cultural artifacts that have been taken from indigenous peoples all over the world through the activities of the colonial powers. And it has become an issue in recent years, also supported by the Black Lives Movement, to return cultural artifacts and any other properties that belong to indigenous peoples back to the owners, especially when they're in possession of foreign institutions or foreign governments. And so to this end, we are having this restitution lab to discuss these issues and to create awareness. A lot of people hear about the Benin bronzes, we hear about the return of looted artifacts, but a lot of people cannot connect it to the history. A lot of people cannot connect it to what is happening today. A lot of people just see it probably as objects of art. They do not understand the importance and relevance of these objects to our history, to our culture, to our society today. And so we hope that in bringing together everybody, this will be the first of the series. We're going to have more. We hope to organize them in different venues. And so we hope that more and more people will participate and learn more of the facts so that you can also use this as information to create a better society for ourselves. And so today we are going to start with the topic, the phoenix. For the phoenix to find its home in us on restitution, rehabilitation, and reparation. Now, I do not know how many people know about the phoenix bird. The phoenix bird is the mythical bird that got burnt and then rose out of the ashes and became alive again. So, for this to find its form in us means that in 1897, when the British came and attacked Benin, but you all know that before Benin was attacked, they attacked Jaja or Bobo in rivers, they attacked Nana of Ishekiri before they could come inwards. And so we all share a history that's tied together. Before then, they had also attacked the Sultan of Sokoto, the Emir of Zaria, the Emir of Kano, the Shiru of Borno, and also those in the Middle Belt, the Tifto and all those people. And that is how they conquered all these territories and were able to merge them together as the Southern Protectorate and the Northern Protectorate to form the country Nigeria. Now, after forming the country Nigeria, they not only stop there, they also imposed what you call colonial administration. Colonial administration. Under the colonial administration, they introduced Western-style education, Western-style diet, the Western European languages, the culture, and often in school, we're told many things. Do not speak vernacular. Were you not told that? Do do not speak vernacular. You're only allowed to speak English. You cannot wear traditional clothes. You're only allowed to wear shirt, trouser. You have to cut your hair in a certain way. You have to speak in a certain way. You have to eat bread, tea, and egg for breakfast, and all sorts of stories. Today, 130 years after, here we are. And so, to help us and join us to illuminate this discussion, I would like to invite certain distinguished persons. We are all distinguished. I'm just going to select a few of us. We all come here. But what I want us to know is that a restitution lab is not a laboratory for lectures. It's a laboratory for mutual exchange. So the fact that you're on this side does not make you any less than discussants. We're only going to act as a catalyst. So you're all going to be part of this discussion. And I would like you to, as much as possible, feel free to share your own recognitions, your own perspectives. It's very important. So I'll start by introducing and inviting Godfrey Ikator to please come forward. Godfrey Ikator is a historian and a researcher and a fellow of the DAAD Museum Lab 2021. The DAAD is the largest art fund and one of the most prestigious institutions in the world. He's also a fellow of IFRA Nigeria, fellow Institute for Benin Studies. He's interested in Benin history, culture, and traditions, co-curator of the prestigious exhibition of Benin looted history at the MAG Hamburg Germany Research at the MAG Hamburg in Germany. He's a research associate in the Reentanglement Project, contributing author in the Benin Red Book, and has other publications in journals. He's also a principal researcher, Nigeria, in the Digital Benin Project for the reconnection of the royal treasures of Benin. Please run. And then I would also like to invite Mr. Peter Aibohan, who is strongly interested in culture. He holds a BA and an MA in Theatre Arts from the University of Benin, Nigeria. He has been involved in many creative works of music, film, and conferences. He is currently the brand promotion and marketing manager of Deep End Entertainment, a leading entertainment company and conglomerate in Nigeria. Round of applause for him. Yes, and we also are going to balance our discussants. We would like to introduce the first female member of the group. Her name is Mrs. Bimbe Oyemi. She's an artist, art curator. She's also a writer and publisher of academic materials in art. I've seen her publication. I'm very impressed, and I think she deserves a huge round of applause for the effort that they make to educate all the young artists in schools. Well, the man I'm about to introduce is a modest fellow. He has just introduced himself as Osaigo Ovo Iriamanton, a filmmaker, but I can tell you also that he's a qualified medical doctor. He has put together short films that have won awards. He was one of the beneficiaries of our Edo film program here, and we're proud that today he's considered one of the leading emerging filmmakers in West Africa. A round of applause for him. And also, we have in our midst, leave on my chair. Please leave on my chair. I would like to invite Mr. Ibe. Mr. Ibe is a fifth generation bronzecaster. He comes from a long line of famous bronzecasters. Today, he's still practicing. His workshop and foundry is one of the busiest and one of the best that you can find on a good street today. They are very serious with their work. They produce replicas and produce contemporary works. They also produce for a lot of artists. And today, he's here to also share his perspective on what it means for our culture to reawaken the advantages of reawakening our culture. So, I think he deserves a round of applause. He has been at the forefront, he has been a vanguard for capturing and continuing one of the very important traditions of our culture, traditions, and history. Mr. Ibe, thank you very much for coming. And before we go ahead, I would just like to recognize some people here who I see in the audience. Mr. Modadem, who is also a renowned bronze maker, an artist, who's from the renowned Modadem family. Kelly Modadem, who is here with us at Edo Global, also comes from the family of renowned bronze casters. So we're going to be having different perspectives. We have artists, and we have researchers, we have sociologists, we have students, we have IT practitioners, scientists, dancers, beat makers. Everybody is here in this audience. So we have a robust audience, and we're looking forward to a very robust engagement today. So please relax, feel free. It's just going to be discussion. We're going to be exchanging knowledge, and we look forward to everybody's contribution. So I'd like to start by inviting, and you can sit where you're speaking. It's going to be, like I said, a discussion. And so I would like to start by inviting Mr. Godfrey Ikato, who will start by sharing some aspects of this topic with us. To simplify the topic, let's just say how the phoenix finds its form in us. Let's just say, how do we begin to discover who we are, what we are, where we are going to, and how to get there. How do we do this vis-a-vis our history of colonialism? How do we do it when our artifacts are in the diaspora, knowing that these artifacts are bearers of our history, they are keepers, are storage vessels of our history? How do we do this? What do we require to achieve this reawakening and rebirth of our culture? Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you, members of the panel. I think we are all familiar faces, and also the topic for the day is a very familiar one. Pardon me if it's not to you, but for me, it's a very familiar terrain. It's like asking me to go to my father's farm. I can go at night, anytime of the day. I was willing to go. So when I was invited, I was willing to come. Because our story of colonialism, if we start from 1897, will be one that propels us to ask ourselves questions, thought-provoking questions. Questions many of us may have asked, questions some of us are not also very much aware of. What has happened, or what happened in 1887? What happened after 1887? And what has happened to us after then, since 1897, how do we fare as a people? In 1897, I remember there is this two version of the narrative of what transpired in 1897 at Overton. One, we were told as children that the white men were bringing a wife for our king. And then our ancestors said, no, you can't bring the woman for the Benin king. And when the white man insisted, the story goes that the white man, in his own remark, while listening to the Benin chiefs, the Benin chief said, "Aweti Makwan, near Hanani Okwe Oba." And the white man said, "Oh, he said we should come." Because the Benin man said, "Aweti Makwan," and that provoked the fight. But again, the second story also tells us that, well, you see, the Benin chiefs being suspicious of what the British officials led by Captain James Philip, were coming to do in the Kingdom, and given the experience or the stories they've also gathered from the neighboring kingdoms, were very, very protective of their kingdom. And like you and I today, for me, I don't know about you, like me today, they stood to fight and protect their king. The king sent them on an errand to say, tell the British to wait, they can come another day. And just yesterday, I stumbled on a very interesting account that says that there was a time in Benin Kingdom when a Benin trader killed a Dutch official at Overton. And the reaction of the Benin monarch was to sentence the trader, though being a chief, with his entire lineage to the third generation to death. Which means that just told me, come, it would not have been possible for Bavara to have sent his chiefs to go to war and kill Captain Phillips. So the British misunderstood what transpired at that moment and overreacted within 2 weeks. They attacked Benin like never before, like they never attacked any kingdom in the West Africa, Atlantic coast. They attacked Benin with the best of their warships, and they brought down a kingdom that controlled as far as Ghana in the Atlantic coast down to the Congo after they burned the trigger of African coast. You could understand that they knew the might of the Oba. Philip was very specific. His mission was conquer the kingdom, depose the king, and take over their land, because Oba Vorame and Benin Kingdom was a strong force and a great power to be reckoned with. But what has happened after that? Ebon, Oloboshere, and other great Benin world chiefs took up arms to fight in defense of this kingdom. But 2 years after their guerrilla warfare, they submitted. And the psyche of the people changed immediately. 3 years ago, there was an exhibition here with the project for which today I'm privileged to be the research associate with the Reintegrament Project. And one of the artists here produced an Okore staff showing Dr. Thomas holding it. And that is a symbol that shows what transpired after 1897. Because when they took the land, our sacred, sacramental, ritual, artistic records, objects, that in the average Benin home, only the priest, which is the head of the house, will go to the altar to touch. We are touched by these British white men. So they desecrated our land, they desecrated our culture, and they made us to begin to think that we were inferior. Whereas, for every altar that they entered and destroyed, they pillaged history, they pillaged culture, they destroyed records. They destroyed records of our civilization, they destroyed records that today we would have been able to study, read, and understand what our ancestors have done before and thereafter. Imagine sitting before a family altar, hearing and listening to the genealogy of the family, and listening to the feats, the achievement of every ancestor that is being recounted. I know Ewan is here. We'll mention Ewan being the 5th generation. We'll mention our mother being the 5th generation. Imagine how Ewan will feel when he sits today at Igun Street, and then a family member recounts the number of work his ancestors have produced for the Oba of Benin. I think he will be no less proud than he is today. These works and this tradition were all pillaged, they were all destroyed. Beyond that, the system that was introduced following 1900 down to 1960 was such that here in Benin, after colonial administration was established, a very prominent chief in Benin had to sell his objects. Another had to give up his objects to be pawns just because he has embraced Islam. These are known in history. Chief Eolo of Igbisawa sold his objects, which make a chunk of what we exhibited at 2 or 3 objects we exhibited in Hamburg. The Balogun, who was a very close friend to Obayawaka II, bought his objects, gave them up to be burnt. And according to ICM, Dr. Ikagosa ICM of blessed memory, for every old man that dies, it's like a library set ablaze. For every object that was looted, for every object that was burnt, the library was set ablaze. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That is amazing. I think it deserves more than that. So, I would like to ask, is there anybody in the audience who would like to ask any question based on what we just heard from Mr. Godfrey? Is there anything you would like to ask? Or we go to the next person for discussions? Anybody? No? So go ahead. And like I said, we're sharing perspectives. And each person will speak from their own perspective. And so I would like to invite Dr. Raymond to share his perspective on what he thinks we should do today to preserve, to regain, preserve, and propagate our culture amongst the people today, and also in trust for future generations, using the medium which is familiar with.
Thank you very much. I actually prayed that segment was going because of enjoying it, and I enjoyed everything you said. I think I'm not alone. I would like to say a few things about film as a vehicle for telling stories. Film is one of the easiest vehicles today that we use to tell about our past, to tell about or to forecast about the future, and that has become very important even as we talk about restitution today. As an African filmmaker, I and my other colleagues who are filmmakers are faced with the dilemma of either telling their stories, especially their stories that the West does not want to hear, or to tell the stories that people outside this clan would want to hear. That is the trailer of my film, Bedelio, in the Hands of Fate. Okay, I'll start with this. Bedelio, in the Hands of Fate is a short film about Edeleo, Princess Edeleo, who was the eldest daughter of Ogaewa the First, and she was at the brink of being made the Oba of Benin, which was history. Unfortunately, on the day of her coronation, what made one of the peculiarity of being a woman was in display. On the day of her coronation, she started menstruating, which is normal for women. So the coronation was postponed. Unfortunately, that lasted for months. And when it continued, it had to be called off. So the Zamaniyo and the made a decree that females should not be made overs.
Who are the Zamaniyo? Who are the Zamaniyo?
Okay, the Zamaniyo are the kingmakers. 6 of them are chiefs. We have the Izomo, it's headed by Odia. We have Izomo and the kingmakers. So thank you very much. So today, as filmmakers, there are so many aspects of filmmaking that are more attractive, that are more lucrative, that the West would like to see. The West would like to see Africa at war. They would like to see poverty porn. That means they would like to see poverty where men that are malnourished, people that are wicked, and those are the things they would like to see about us. Perhaps that is how they view us. However, there are some very peculiar stories that have happened in Africa in the past. They are quick to tell us that they introduced us to giving women a chance to rule. They are quick to tell us that they introduced us to things like exclusive breastfeeding even. They will want to make you feel that before now women never contributed to important discourse in Africa. But this is Ideleo at about 1472, being chosen by the kingmakers as a king. As we speak today, no woman has been made the president of America. But so many years ago, the Beninese had already chosen a woman. It is the kingmakers in Benin. And that shows how our ancestors, that shows how our fathers behaved. That showed how our organized the Benin kingdom or the Benin Empire. So most of the times they want us not to see this. We are crossroads. Do we do what they want us to do, or we do what we should do, which is telling our stories? And most of us have chosen to tell our stories as authentic as it is.
So in this genre of music, of filmmaking, how do you propagate the culture, the language, the norms, the values, the taboos? How do you guarantee that this becomes a vehicle through which this is, projected and spread among people?
Thank you very much. I had a discussion with a friend yesterday, and I told him that you don't miss what you don't know. You don't miss what you've never heard about. You don't miss what you've never experienced. We are lucky that we have different generations of Edo people at this particular time, or Africans at this particular time. We have fathers who maybe first hand heard from their fathers about exploits of warriors in the Benin Kingdom, about some very interesting stories. We also have people who are not so young, who perhaps were very, very privileged to be taught history in their schools. And we have a generation that have never been taught history in any form. We have a generation that maybe have never visited any museum. We have a generation that the closest they know about African culture are films that are done in Hollywood by people that want to tell African stories their own way. A generation whose closest encounter with Africa is watching Black Panther. So what we want to do is to make them experience Benin culture. When I was going to make this film, I had to do some research. Before now, I've always been in love with Benin stories. I've always loved reading about Benin books. So for this project, I had to go to the Institute of Benin Studies on many occasions, and this film may just be a product of breaking down so many works by writers like the late Ekagosa Aisen, Ebon, Igariba, and the rest. So when you make films, you get so many materials, you do so many research, you break them down to forms that people can easily digest. And that is what we do too. That is what we do in filmmaking. So what we have, our intention is to make people experience Benin culture first time, to make them desire it. And by the time you've already experienced what Benin culture was like, what the happenings, the great things that happened before now, you start looking forward, experiencing them. So that's what we are trying to do now. That's what we are doing currently.
Thank you very much. I think it's very important to also stress that filmmaking combines all the various forms of art, pictures, sound, costuming, and so you get to see everything all together. So we round of applause for him, please. This is what 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, people are going to see an animated version of our culture, of our history, preserved and also told by somebody who has done research, by somebody who has a deep passion for what he's doing. And this is one way of propagating, projecting, and preserving our culture and tradition. So thank you very much, Dr. Renato, for your contribution. And so I would now like to invite Mr. Peter Iboka, who himself is, like we said before, a social, cultural practitioner. And he will share with us his experience, because like I've said, you have a filmmaker, but the film has to be shown in the film house. And he also runs an outfit where people go for recreation, people go for entertainment, and so they get to meet and interact with a lot of people. So this becomes an avenue through which you can propagate our culture as well. So please share with us your experience and how you think this can be effectively upscaled. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me here. For me, I have seen art as a very important tool for communicating ideas. And we are in the business of art, trying to bring art to people. And by doing this, we become product managers. And that is one of the gospel I keep on preaching. Because we discovered that a whole lot of our youth now are interfacing with art. Some of them are creating art, but some of them don't know what they are doing. So we try as much as possible to let them know that until you begin to see the artwork that you are doing, be it paint, be it music, be it film, as a valuable and useful, feasible product, you will really be able to bring it out and give it your best. Let's say this way, we're talking about the Europeans coming to do Europe in Vegas. Yeah. Now, one of the main things history we learned from those invasions when they colonized Nigeria was to do business. Yes. We have that of the Royal Niger Company. Because when another territory goes, another country or kingdom goes to another place to take over, the next thing it does is to gather the spoil. But now they can also put their presence there, continue generating funds. Now, not from what they have, but from the inside of those people that are living there. By what? Selling their culture. This thing has metamorphosed to this present day. So I always enjoy our people. Please let us begin to see the art form as business. Now, let's take for instance, recently there is one music that I just taught the heightened African talk. And you will be surprised that that song is from Benin. Huh? Amena. Everybody know that. Goya, Amena. Now, it's from Benin, but most people don't know. Now, some weeks ago, some broadcasters in Ghana were claiming the song. And people were like commenting, don't drag. They were saying this song, how can Nigeria? They weren't even saying Benin. They were saying Nigeria is dragging this song with Ghana. But most of us that know the history, we have to also participate. But I was like saying, our media people, we were not involved in it. Nobody was saying it. Nobody was talking. We just let it that way. But that song has taught most countries, Tanzania and all that. In fact, some weeks, few days ago, we wanted to host the guy in our place. We were just told that 17th to 20th, on the 12th or so of February, he'll be in the UK. He'll be in South Africa this month. He has been touring just one song. Now we try to look at that song. The Ghanaians believe that the song was because of the beat that was produced by DJ Letus in Canada. But we all know that it was the Amapiano sound that was placed inside the normal manual sound. But why did this song go far on social media like TikTok or Instagram? It was because of the lyrics. You want to bam bam, and you don't get you don't cut. I told those guys, I said, it's because the Africans, the people that are used to that beat, the language, they were just sharing it. That was one of those things that made it global. Because this thing will bring me back to another point again. Because some of the reasons we have discussed, why is it that South African music is not going global again, just like Nigerian music? Those days, we have like Charlie O and the rest coming up in South Africa. But today, Nigeria is everywhere. One of the major factors is that the population of the country and the number of Nigerians in diaspora. So, most families in Benin, we have not just some of them, not one at least, they must have somebody abroad. And today, anything that happens here, they know. In fact, somebody always tells someone, they even call you from Los Angeles telling you what happened at England. You understand? So we have to embrace all these things. Now let's come. What makes us product managers? Until we begin to look at three major things. We have to look at business, the user experience, and technology. Our young people, the people, especially from this side, we should always see that whenever we are churning out an art product, let's see it as business. Because when your culture grows, your culture can also promote your dressing. Your culture can also, when it promotes your dressing, people start buying those things. I remember one time, even it can also promote your food. Your culture promotes your food. People see you maybe what the guys was eating in the movie or in the music, okay? Whether in form of product placement, they begin to want to connect with it. Let's have that at the back of our mind.
So I was going to interject and ask. I remember in those days, whenever there was a party or you went for any event, a lot of foreign music was played and hardly any Nigerian music. And in those days, we go to the cinema houses, you only saw foreign Hollywood or Indian or Chinese movies. So in your experience, with the growth of beat and the growth of the Nigerian Nollywood industry. How would you say this has impacted on our people and on people globally? Because to put it in context, many of our young people, and many of us were influenced by what we see made by Hollywood, what we see made by BET, or what's the other one? Most of the other channels that channel hip hop and all these foreign cultures to us. So now, with the reverse being the case, where our Afrobeat musicians and our Nollywood filmmakers are making a lot of inroads. How has this helped to bring up the pride for us to discover our culture, become proud of it, and then now to share it with the world? How has this impacted on it?
Yes, this thing has impacted. Most of us will see the dividend of it. Because right now, it has upgraded most of our musicians. If you are not a musician, unlike those days when we have the Majek Pachek, I know they do go abroad. Just like you said, way back 2001, Nigeria was still dragging with foreign songs. Then plantation boys were just coming up like 98, 99. Then you play 90% foreign songs, you play 20% local songs gradually. But today, you don't play foreign songs. I tell you, because we have a club, you have to play the latest Niger songs. Now, this thing has empowered our youth. They don't have money. Just call an artist today from Lagos. He will be talking about millions, 1.2, 1.5. Then again, it has the people in the West have also seen that the movement is so fast that they also need to jump on it by collaboration. We saw that of this guy, Eshara, yeah. But we know how big that guy is. But he needed to, because that one has allowed him to connect with the audience in Africa. And so many other people are doing that. And again, most producers in Nigeria, most of them are even migrated. I can talk about two of my friends now. They are migrated they are now in Texas, because there's now more demand for Afrobeat production. And if you are not grounded in the rhythm here, you can't produce it. No matter whether you can't expect someone like Timbaland to produce a good Afrobeat. So most of them are relocated. So that is one thing, which also have now created another platform. Please just look at the way our guys now are invading UK tour. Who does that before? It's for the big record major companies. And even our adult people here, they are invading the UK. Just blow now, you'll be in UK. You start. So that's one of the major impact.
Thank you very much, President. It's very important for us to realize that Africa is a huge market. There are 72 billion persons on Earth, and over 1 billion are in Africa alone. And then, how many Africans in the diaspora? And when you realize that the power of the internet is extremely influential, out of 7.2 billion persons on Earth, you have 4.5 billion on the internet. So just imagine a market of 4.5 billion persons. So that's why it's so easy now, without all the geographical barriers, to release something on TikTok and reach out. So you can have 700 million people just streaming what you are doing, getting interested, and the rest is history. And so the next stage is what they call the Internet 3, which is the metaverse. So if you have 4.5 billion persons, I can tell you that with the new blockchain technology, you're about to get maybe 6 billion, 7 billion persons on the internet. And then with the metaverse, you're going to be getting is that, on the internet, anybody can copy what you have. They can even clone your page and be propagating themselves as you, until somebody spots them and reports, and then you report and you pursue and fight and quarrel before they bring it down. But in the metaverse, once you have NFT'd your identity or NFT'd your product, you're the only person who can have it. Which means the level of trust, the legal tender amongst this market of 4.5 billion is single. So if somebody offers you an NFT for a digital product, wherever you are, even for your house, for your car, wherever you are in the world, you have the confidence to accept it. You don't have to wait for the dollar, you don't have to wait for the euro, you don't have to wait for any currency, you don't have to wait for any government, you don't have to wait for any central bank. So it's going to become a decentralized, truly global economy. You are not ready, you don't understand what it means. Trust me. The time, confidence, the revolution is now. And the way it's unfolding, don't get into it now. When the time comes, it might just be too late. So, get ready. It's going to be a very, very, like the Chinese say, we pray to live in interesting times. And I can tell you, minus the pandemic, we are living in interesting times. So next, I would like to introduce the lady amongst us here in our distinguished gathering of discussants. Her name is Bingbe Owoyemi. She is an artist, an art curator, a very good writer, and a publisher of academic materials in art. She deserves a round of applause. How they brought colonialism, how they did our culture, how they prevented that. But the question is, what are you doing to reverse this situation? What do we have to do to reawaken our knowledge of our culture? What do we have to do to strengthen and propagate our culture, not only amongst our people, but also for generations yet unborn? So I would like to ask our distinguished author and publisher, Bingbe Owoyemi, her perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for an opportunity like this to learn and most especially to hear from other people and understand their own points of view. During the colonial period, a lot of tools were used to diminish our culture. A lot of tools, just like we talked about, media, entertainment, art, and education. Education is one very big tool that was used against us. Now we have an opportunity to do something about it. I think by now, over 100, how many years now, we should be done complaining. We should be done talking about what has been done to us. We should focus more on how to move forward and how to reverse these things. So I always say that the best way is to use the tools that were used against us. We should tell our stories ourselves. If education was used, we should use education, right? If entertainment, if media was used, if culture, creativity were used against us, then we should use it back. We should use it to reclaim ourselves. I remember during my first degree, my paper was, I was actually given an opportunity to write anything for my first paper, and I remember telling my roommates that I wasn't I wasn't really interested in going deeper and doing a lot of work because it's not as if we were that encouraged. So I told my roommate and I said, let me pick something that will be easy for me to do. There is a part where I'm supposed to talk about, research something about my culture. And I decided to write about the Oro Festival. The Oro Festival in the western part of Nigeria is a particular festival that we do once in a year, where women are supposed to be locked in. We are not supposed to come out. We are not even supposed to open our windows. We're supposed to just locked in throughout the day. You know, giving us this impression that the Oro doesn't want to see any female. And of course, being a woman, that is kind of, you know, I don't know how to put it, but so I told her I was going to write about Oro because I know that definitely I will be turned back. I think my goal was to talk about how such culture and festivals should be allowed in the first place. I wanted to emphasize on how it shouldn't be practiced. I mean, we are in a civilized world, let me put it like that. But going back home opened my eyes to a lot of things that we were not told because we didn't ask questions. I went back home and I remember, you see, that period, that research period for me was the closest I've been to knowing my roots and knowing myself and where I came from. And it was a beautiful experience. I went deeper into seeing priests that, you know, guide this God. And the surprising thing was that they were ready to talk to me. I told my dad before I left, and I said, nobody will want to explain or give me more lessons about this particular festival because I'm a female to start with. But it was totally different. I was taken to the shrines, I was shown things, and when I got back home, I told my dad that this man was eager to teach. He was excited to see me, female or not female. They just want to teach. He was excited to see a younger generation want to know these things. I don't want to go deeper because of time, but they were interested. I understood a lot better, just like I said about what they just realize, you know, they tell you, no, Africa diminishes women, the roles of women in our culture, you know, we see ourselves to be inferior, but it's not like that, really. You need to learn, you need to research. So my point is, what took me back home? School, education. And I was privileged to have that because I picked a course that gave me that opportunity to start with. I took a course, that means that it's a specialization. That means that a lot of other graduates in school at that point, they have the opportunity because these things are not introduced to our primary level and even high schools, even secondary levels. You don't get to learn these things. I used to say that if Aina Nabolu was the first, you know, their generation was the first to teach art in a formal setting, what were they teaching? Definitely about the Western culture. In our own time, we had the privilege to learn about Aina Nabolu because as part of the African contemporary artist, right? But who did Aina Nabolu studied as, you know, their own African contemporary artist? None. You see? So indirectly, we've been taught to forget all about our own culture academically. Culture is a beautiful thing. I personally learned a lot about other culture. I took it upon myself to study these things because they're actually beautiful. Culture is culture. They are beautiful, they are ugly. They can be beautiful, they can be ugly, they can be barbaric, they can be interesting. You know, you have the chills and everything. But having another culture tell us that our own is inferior, is what is not acceptable. So we need to understand that fact. We need to go back, or we need to do more research. And how do we do this? We're done complaining, just like we said. We want to teach ourselves. We want to go back and learn who we are and find out about where we are from and see how these things affect us in present time. So education is a very tool, and I taught in school for years, and I realized that we have a very big gap in that aspect. Our curriculum is not encouraging at all. It's not. So what do we do about it? I personally decided to start writing academic material in art. And this time, I'm not just imposing it to the tertiary institution or even starting from the secondary level. From the beginning, if we have primary geography and we have primary science, why can't we have these things? Why can't we have primary art? Primary culture, I'm not talking about what is, if you have the privilege to see what is in the curriculum, believe me, it is discouraging, very discouraging. And I want to believe that these people that are right there, to put these things together don't know better. But how can we contribute? How can I contribute? I've decided to, go into research, how to bring these things in from the primary level. The 5-year-old child that doesn't know, and you will be surprised. I have kids. My son was 4 years old when he asked me, it was doing an assignment, and he said, local government. And I said, what? You don't know your local government? You don't know your state of origin? And I called my husband and I said, what is going on? But, unconsciously, we just are not teaching them enough. So if they spend most of their hours in school, so let's take it to schools. Let's, go in, from the educational system and correct these things. So I started writing materials that talk about our culture, the basic element of art, and how it infused in our own culture. We should learn about our own people. I'm a visual artist, and I know that right now, every fine artist producing work of art out there are going into contemporary styles. What is contemporary, really? We want to produce works that are acceptable by the collectors. Who are the collectors, really? So they force us to do things that, it's just still about their culture, about their style, about their fashion. There was a particular time my husband was doing this series of work, and he was infusing. That was what he did during his master's period. He did a lot about traditional motifs and all of that. So of course he was infusing it into his work, and he was discouraged in several galleries to remove it from his style because it's not contemporary. So how are we tracing our steps? Let's use these tools that was used against us. Let's use it back in reclaiming ourselves and our culture.
Thank you very much, madam. Written and self-published these books, which have been sold and are being used in primary schools in Edo State for teaching art. So it's not enough to complain, we have to be in there. So as you can see from our discussants so far, they are all in the arena doing their best. Mr. Kofi Ekato is a very modest person. He has not told you the real importance of his work, what he has been doing, so I will share it with you so you understand. He is the lead researcher in Nigeria for a project called Digital Benin. That project, what they are doing is they're going to all the various museums where Benin artifacts are kept. And they are cataloging with photographs, with the provenance, the history, the measurements, everything about those objects. They're putting it together so that it can be hosted in the cloud. And the importance of this is that when people like Emma want to have access to see more mini works, just get on the internet, go into that particular site, and you can see so far they've cataloged over 4,000. They're working with teams here in Nigeria, but they have teams in Europe, in America, and they're trying to reach about 160 museums where they will catalog these things. So if you have over 4,000 photographs, before maybe you've seen 10, 20 photographs, but now you have over 4,000 photographs of artifacts that you can access from anywhere you are in this world. And eventually, that database is going to be warehoused in Benin. So you can see that he's in the arena and he's doing a lot to change the narrative. So round of applause for him. Mr. Aboka did not stop at academic. He has gone into the practice field. He's there helping to create platforms where products of people like Dr. Remato, who is a filmmaker, his films can be shown to the general public, where people who want to do drama, people who want to do stage shows, cultural shows, and also showcase whatever it is that they have to share with people. So what I'm trying to emphasize is that everybody you see here is a doer. We are not just talking. So it's important that we take away from this restitution lab the need to be a doer, to contribute your own little quota in your own little corner. And at the end of the day, when all those corners come together, they become huge influencers of our lives. The rest of them you know. So now I would like to invite the 5th generation broadcaster, NY Agri, and what I want to talk about is this object your ancestors produced, which today you continue to produce. What are the problems that you face? How important is it that you keep doing what you are doing? Yes, we know you have to do it to pay school fees and to pay bills and all of that. But I've been to your country and I see that people take particularly deep interest to do the best, to do the details, to do extraordinary work. What inspires you? What is inspiring you? What problems do you face? And what do you think can be done to make sure that this broadcasting tradition does not fade away, does not die?
I want to thank the audience for the privilege giving me to speak. Though I'm not an historian just like my men here anyway, but I will do my best. I'm just a broadcaster. I will, the issue of bronze work started a very long time ago. It's an hereditary thing. Parents used to pass it to their children. Though in these modern days, other people have also been involved in the job anyway. But then, the casting, the bronze work, may be restricted to the palace those days. My grandfather, all of them used to go to the palace, they go there to do the job, they do the casting for the Oba there, cleaning and preparing it and giving it to the Oba. The Oba don't maybe give them a gift, and they were doing it with of their heart. They were happy doing it until after the invasion, when most of those products were taken abroad. And that also exposed most of those products to make people to know about most of those jobs, and they were interested in coming to Benin to also see it and also to buy it. The individuals started doing it in their home. My grandfather was involved, my father was also involved. My father taught me the art of broadcasting. Almost 30-something years ago, I was involved in right from my primary school. I started doing the job. It's a job I love. Not just because of the money, though we need money to take off our family, but because of the pleasure and the right we need, so it made me to be involved into the job. Then the way they were doing those days is quite different from the way we do it these days. And maybe because of the advancement in technology anyway too. Most times we go to the internet, we bring most of those jobs that were done, the pictures, most of the people that are on the internet, just like what is also telling me now, that we definitely are going to get more, and we're happy to get more of those jobs to enable us to be able to produce more than what we are doing today. We bring them, we use it to produce, sometimes we modernize it, we try to add to it, to make it more better than the way it was. And then the size we also produced too, compared to the size our parents were producing, quite different. Those days, maybe because of the material they used doing most of those jobs, they produce, because they were using clay pot, they lose the we still use clay pot for a smaller job anyway. But we have other crucible, we have other big pot that we use today. So they use to do most of those jobs, and maybe 1 feet, 2 feet maximum. But these days, we can produce 10 feet. Job can produce 12 feet, depends. Even 30 feet can only produce it. So here we also do on both, not just only the Asian jobs we produce, we also go into contemporary jobs. You have your photograph, you want us to produce it, we will do it for you. If you go to Samuel Bermudia, the job Samuel Bermudia was produced in my place. We did the production. That's Samuel Studio. There's a job there you can see, that was Samuel Bermudia, we produced. We did the production. It was my senior brother, we did the production at the whole year. So we had a lot of job there we produced. So, but it's like I said before, it's a regulatory job. We normally parents pass it to their children. So me, I only going to pass it to my children too, so that the job will not die, so that the job will only continue. So I'm also introducing it to my children. I'm also telling them that they need to just stop the job. Not necessarily the money. I know they will also need the money. And I have that job doing, I'm an engineer by profession. I read mechanical engineering, I'm also working, but there's no day I don't come to the room to work. Because if I fail to come, it's as if something is affecting me. So I have this at home without touching something. So I love the job, I love doing it. So we have a lot of challenges in it anyway too. We have a lot of challenges, like present now, the material, to source the materials to produce the job is very difficult for us now. Things are so expensive, not necessarily because of the price, but to get the material. Because of the exchange rate now, making most of those people, the raw materials we normally get here, they move it to other countries because of the exchange rate. So it makes it very, very difficult for us to get those materials to produce most of those jobs too. And you also NEPA too, although we have generators we normally use to, but those things also affecting us. And government policy too. Most of those products, you can't take it outside this country. It's very, very difficult. Except the white man comes here, a lot of people come here to buy it, they will take it to Nosona, they pass through the number before they even take it out. It's very, very difficult. So those are some of the challenges that we are facing. Then we also see a lot of outside too that are also taking place there. But no really government encouragement. Government is not there to encourage us. We that are doing it, we just go into it. The lot of challenges we face there, they are numerous, but we just give God the glory. And because of the love we develop on it, we are able to do what we are doing. And now, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibe and Y. That was a very interesting expose. We hope that what we've learned from you and heard from you, the relevant assistance will come to ensure that this tradition, which has been coming for thousands of years, can be preserved and propagated. And we hope that when the items come back, not only the items will come, other programs for reparation will also come to assist the bronze casting guild and all the bronze casters to have an easier time sourcing materials so that they can focus on the creativity, which is what's most important. On this note, I would like to say please give a round of applause to all our discussions. I want to thank them very much for their contribution and to hope that as this lab continues to unfold, we will answer our requests if we need you to participate. Because this quest to share this knowledge is a continuous one. It's something that we'll not get tired of doing. We have been deprived of our objects, we've been deprived of our way of life, and our culture for over 130 years. And so we cannot get tired after 3 years or 4 years or 10 years of meditation. We should be able to continue to try to make things proper for the next 300 years if we have to. As you know, the global movement, Black Lives Matter, has created an awareness about the importance of indigenous cultures. And it's important that as we move forward, we preserve our language and we preserve the good aspects of our culture and the good and progressive aspects of our tradition. As you know, if you do not understand a language, then all the proverbs, all the wisdom that are in the proverbs or in the wise sayings in that language, they're locked to you forever. You can never take advantage of them. You know? I understand English, I understand Edo. So, you tell me a proverb in Edo, so I can get the wisdom from what the ancestors have put down in the Edo language from their own experiences. And I can also get the wisdom that Plato, Homer, Shakespeare, and all those other people have put down in their own language as well. But if I don't understand Edo, when you say, Amase Homer, how we, what it means is that if you don't know your language, you're lost. And it can be true. Let's put it in proper context. So, what we're trying to do is to encourage all of us to rediscover who we are, to try to stoke this passion. Because moving forward, the only thing that grants you originality is the only thing that grants you originality. It's very important. We have in our midst Professor Osunde Omori. He's a sociologist from the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, University of Benin. We invited him, though he has a tight schedule, because without time to be here this evening. We will also share his perspective with all of us. Like I said, we also have loads of people in the audience who, everybody here deserves to share their perspective and their perceptions, because we can learn from everybody. There's no two human beings who have the same experiences. So it's important. I also want to recognize somebody who is doing very important work also in the cultural sector. Her name is Elosa Opobaifo. She's here. She's an assistant researcher to Mr. Godfrey Kato in the Digital Benin project. You cannot believe the amount of work these people have had to do, and they're still doing, which for the next couple of years, probably next 10 years, we're going to continue doing, just to make sure that our objects, our stories, our history, our artifacts, our memories, that we've handed over our ancestors to us, are not lost. So it's important we take advantage of this. So I'm going to throw the floor open, and we're going to have your head from this side, and we would like to hear from this side. I'm going to invite you randomly, so be ready to take the mic and say what you feel about this topic, about this subject, how you feel we can make it better. So, I'll just remind you that the discussion here is about restitution, the restitution lab. Restitution in the sense of rehabilitation, reparations. So we keep talking about the objects, we keep talking about the objects. How about the people that were massacred? How about the houses that were burnt? How about the families that were destroyed? How about the society that was factionalized? And today, you all know that in those days, it was a taboo to be involved in fraud. It was a taboo to be involved in prostitution. It was a taboo to even wish your fellow man evil. But today, we have preponderance of Yahoo boys, people who are doing fraud, that are accepted in society. You have these elements, they've taken it further. Now they are ready to take human beings and make rituals just to get rich. The question is, in those days when our customs and traditions held sway, would this have happened? Would it have become acceptable in society? Would it have become the norm? In 20 years' time, in 30 years' time, in 100 years' time, with the amount of young people who are living solely for money, and who are ready to do anything for money, what's going to happen to future generations? Are we going to be able to rediscover our true self, our values, and propagate this? Or is it all going to go down to the dogs? Today, parents are going to sell their houses so that children can go to Italy or wherever. And when the spoils of these practices are brought back, they willingly move into the houses, they drive the cars, and they get involved in all of that. So, as we're discussing this, we have a gentleman who is online and who's going to talk to us via Zoom. Is he ready? Mr. Wajid Ogumeye is a researcher, is an author, and is a cultural ambassador. He's also the author of the Benin Ife controversy, Clash of Myths of Origins. He's on standby via Zoom to talk to us. So he's not ready. Okay, so when they've got their act together, we will proceed to invite him to come over. And so now I would like to get a perspective from Professor Sunde, who will share his perspective on the effects of society of the events of 1897 and how today we can rediscover our culture, we can propagate it, and we can draw the values of this culture. As an accomplished sociologist, he should be able to share his perspective with us. Round of applause for him, please.
So that we can see how we can integrate and rediscover our lost glory in the area of culture. I'm going to be talking from the academic point of view, not as a professional, because we all know what culture is all about. the reason why we are where we are today is as a result of globalization. If we look at it closely, Enoch was saying that before now, we used to do things in the direction of families. Families in the sense that I remember when I was growing up, when my parents see bread and geisha with me, I'm in trouble. You know, we are not allowed to eat bread and geisha when we are young. Is it not true? Then, when you talk about a member of a household steals, it's like a taboo. Not talking about prostitution or so on and so forth. But after a while, all these things eroded away. Eroded away in the sense that when we start, anything that is constant is changed. Is it not true? So when we start changing, when we start ourselves, the society start evolving, growing up into industrialization and urbanization, new things started coming up. My friend said it clearly here, I don't remember, you said it clearly, that education was one of our major problems. That as a result of that, we should use the same education to rediscover ourselves. And this is part of our problems too, our very big problem. And again, our parents again, the whole problem started from the family unit. Because when we started adopting other people's culture, that's what we call cultural adaptation. When we started adopting other people's culture in the areas of, when you talk about the music, for example, if you look at the superstar, their style of music is not African. True or false? It's not African. Most of Davido's songs, very few of them are African. I remember one he sang in a native way. It's not African. So although you may say that they adopted other people's culture positively, because they are portraying the art of culture positively, but the art of doing it is not African. That is one problem we have. That is cultural adaptation. They adopt other people's culture. They may see in our own native language, but the presentation is not African at all. So that is one problem we have. Then the issue of globalization comes in. The use of internet facilities. Like Enoch was saying, before now we don't used to have this kind of Zoom. People far away abroad discussing with us and so on and so forth. But right now we have it. And people are using these things negatively, especially our youth, who are very smart and clever. They are using it negatively. It's part of the educational aspect we are talking about, that we really need to discover them. And the only way forward about all this, there are so many other factors. If you allow me to start mentioning them, so many other factors. The government may be a factor, policy decision is equally a factor, a major factor. I remember when I was growing up, a governor of a state, you will hear by assumption that he stole money under the pretense of using somebody else's name to build a house, not his own name. Because he doesn't want to be found wanting or stealing. I think people must have heard about that. But now it doesn't happen that way. They steal the money categorically and they don't do nothing. And if you look at our most infrastructure that we have in the state, all these infrastructures were built way back, standardized. But the infrastructure, the modern day Nigerians build now, one, does not meet, it's not up to specification. And second, the monies are abused with reckless abandon, with impunity, and nothing is happening. So there is no policy, direction of government. There is no law that actually sanctions things like this. You're talking about the Yahoo boys as it is to be. I'm a teacher, I supposed to be in the university. As a young undergraduate, how can a young man who is a young man aged 18 or 19 or 20 years at least to speed it, right? Buying a car of 7 or 8 million naira. He has not worked 1 day. I tell them, when you are 35 years old, which car will you ride? Having said all this, we foresee danger. in all this we have just mentioned, we have foreseen danger in them. Because anything that is not good does not last. Anything that is not good will not last. And we foresee most of these young men having problems. Problems in the sense that when you need people in specific areas, you won't see them any longer because they are not covered in niche for themselves. You rightly said you are an engineer, but you are working and you are doing your work. You are proud to say you are an engineer. But no young man wants to school. The females are even doing more better than the men. If you go to school now, it may be a ratio of 90 to 10. A ratio of 90 female to 10 male, as the case will be. And if you are looking for a mechanic to fix your car, now you hardly see any. No young man wants to do any mechanic job or artisan job. And the only good thing about the young men now, they want to go into arts because of the Nollywood industry. The glamour aspect of it, the musical aspect of it. Because that is the only way they cannot dress the way they want to dress. They can showcase themselves the way they want to showcase themselves so people can look at them. Just probably the way, the templates, the Davido, Whiskey, and the Tiwa Savage and others have set out for them to follow. That is why in the university, as you speak today, getting into medicine is much more easier than getting into theater arts. It's difficult for you to get admission into theater arts. During our good days, people hardly read theater arts. But I believe that is another one way that our culture can come back. Because I believe most of our colleagues who teaches us draw your attention back to your culture. Because, like you said, you try to create something out of nothing, you fall back to your culture. I think that's the way another aspect of that too. Well, for me to give other people a chance, I believe we have to start from somewhere. And the somewhere we have to start from is from this interactive session that we have been having here this evening. So that when you leave here, like what my friend rightly said, he teaches his children to do this, to do that. You teaches your children to do this and do that. And your household. The changes will definitely come from our family unit. So you cannot get the general changes from holistically for the society at here. It has to start from somewhere, but from our family unit. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we want to have some audience participation. I'd like to throw the floor open. I want to hear what you have to say for this matter. What do you think we should do? How do you think we can propagate our culture? We can rediscover it? We can preserve it? What do you think should be done to achieve this? So, is there anybody who would like to make a contribution from the audience? Anybody who would like to make a contribution from the audience? So please start by introducing yourself.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. My name is Daniel Chibuzo. First of all, I want to ask some questions. I don't know much about COP, but I have a few questions here. I want to ask, do you people think that there are still things that change the mindset in those things like our culture today? That's number one. Do you think the mindset is still with our urban standards today? And if yes, what language do they communicate with? Those are my questions.
Thank you. This is the last question. Said, do white men still visit our past parents? And if yes,
What language do they communicate with?
Okay. Thank you very much. What interests the white man in our culture? Is there anything that interests the white man in our culture? Of course, there are things. I don't want to generalize. Let's be a little bit very, very specific. I don't know how many of us are Muslims here, neither do I know how many of us are Christians here, but the white man is still powerful with the way capitalism is shaping our society. So the white man wants to know what religion are you practicing? What's that cultural value that you hold dear, that you have sustained, that you are propagating, that you are passing from generation to generation? So there's still very much interested. They want to go. And some of us are also very passionate to say, well, you know what? Colonial education, like she mentioned, has created this narrative. But we have decided to stand alone and look into our cultural practices and values to begin to say, this is what exactly is happening there, not what you have been told or what you have written about us. So we're telling our own story. Then again, you said, what language do they use to communicate? A very interesting question. As a researcher, as a historian, I've asked myself several times, how did our ancestors communicate first Portuguese in 1472, 1482, 1492? I've asked myself, how did they communicate with the Dutch who were not speaking Portuguese? How did they communicate with the French who were not speaking Portuguese? And how did they communicate with the Englishmen when they came? Professor Sule just left. He mentioned globalization. Okay, it's here, fine. I saw him step back. He mentioned globalization. The society has been globalized as far back as the age when Europeans started exploring the world. Communication has started ever since. So, language of communication is determined and based on location. If you are a Benin man, you go to Eastern Nigeria, the first challenge you will face is how you communicate. But within 6 hours, you communicate, human instincts. You begin to communicate. So when the white man comes here, visit Nosona studio, the streets of Benin, Igun, Oba Palace, his first challenge will be communication. His first solution will be insist if you meet somebody who understands and can speak very well, that will communicate and interpret for him to aid his communication. Do you understand? And to quickly add this, Mr. Enotti said Godfrey is a very modest person. We're very careful when talking about our projects. I have to be very blunt. That's our nature. Because hopefully, come October this year, we'll unveil the project, we'll launch it digitally, and some of these questions will be addressed. Communication, language, education, caster, filmmaker. He who is a professional who is interested in harnessing, showing to the world what we are doing. The Digital Benin project will be multifaceted, all-embracing and all-encompassing. It's such that presently we have over 5,000 objects identified globally that are held in institutions, not those that are in private hands. And we have 120 museums, right? And what you just said about communication, about language, Elowosa is introducing into that project. For the first time, I know Mr. Ewan will be interested. Philip is over there, he will be interested in this. The Edo language, the Edo designation, Edo description of these artifacts, group of objects. When you put them together, you have a group of objects in various museum data that we have in the website. We've not seen where they are called correctly, they are Edo thing. And so we're bringing this on in such a way that my sister can use it to educate our children. She can get the word, know the correct Edo. You see the Edo word in its Edo alphabetical orthograph. You see spelled out in Edo orthograph correctly. You listen to the voice correctly. So you'll be able to teach a child this object is Kokore. And then as a historian, as a cultural historian, describing what Kokore is Uhura is not that juju that you think. It encompasses a lot of things. And then you will see what the filmmaker wants, a video of probably Professor Sunde or Mr. Enoti or one of our elders out there talking about what Uhura is, such that it will be useful for the artists, for those in education, and for all of us. So, why I said I try to play it down, we don't want to talk about it too much so that it doesn't sound as if we are hyping it. We want to wait until it is launched. But we are sure it will be very significant and meaningful to our audience.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round up shortly. We spend some time. I want to invite the gentleman who has been waiting via Zoom to make a contribution, Mr. Wajid. I'm just trying to prep him now. Sliding some, let me just see what he's sliding. Okay, so he's ready. He's an author. Mr. Wajid Ogbumeye is a researcher, author, cultural ambassador, and the author of the book, The Benin Ife Controversy, Clash of Myths of Origins. So we'll give him the floor now to make his contribution. Thank you. Technical hitches will not allow us to take advantage of his contribution. But there's somebody here who I would like to specifically request to please come forward and make a contribution. Mr. Phil Modane, round of applause for him, please. He's a famous, renowned broadcaster, artist and broadcaster from the famous and renowned Omodame family. He's a very humble person, but I can assure you when you go to his foundry and his studio, you will see that he has a huge practice. His practice has a lot of he has a lot of studio assistants, and he does very excellent work. So, Mr. Phil, you share with us what the challenges are for, oh, he's asking me before. No, we're not. And so, I would like you to share with us your experience with bronze casting, in the sense that a lot of your reference materials before now, where were you sourcing them from? What challenges you face in this industry? And what do you think should be done to keep the industry going now and in the future? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Good evening, all. Let me just continue from where my brother stopped. We have so many challenges in our works, in the bronze works. Number one, we don't have a conducive atmosphere to practice this trade. I can remember from the first Alauda summit we did, I made the same complaints, they listened, but nothing has been done till now. So, you see, we don't have a very good atmosphere. We don't have a good development for what we are doing. Number two, the hazard. The hazard in it is more than the gain. We are just looking at the money we're making right now. The earth hazard, no earth insurance, nothing. What we inhale every day. Let's look at the next 10, 50 years. So that should be put into consideration, and it's carrying a lot of youth. Again, the government is not helping. Like, I remember when my father was alive, he went to Abuja about 3 times with the then president of the Nigerian countries, one like Paparopoulos. They went to complain to the federal government about the way the Chinese have invaded in the market. Like the PWAS is a byproduct of honey. And it's a local material, but it's very difficult to get. Even by the time you get now, it's not very expensive because the Chinese have taken advantage. They've taken, they are into it because they can use it for polish and other things. And these people, they come and they buy foreign currencies. We that are practicing locally, we can't compete with them. In order not to go out of business, we just try and we just find a way to get material. So it's a very big challenge for us. That is one. Then the bronze scraps we use. Bronze scraps have been available all this while. But by the time you go there, when you go to a place like Warri, where you have these refineries, you usually get them, but this time it's very scarce. I remember when I was young, we used to get a kilo of bronze for 15 naira. Now you can't even find it for 2,500 for a kilo. So that's another challenge for us. Again, talking about our youth. When I was growing up, we were up to 50 in my father's workshop at Toronto Street. But most of my cousins, most of them, they left the shores of this country. They went through this Sahara Desert. We lost some on the way, trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea. But this time, they don't even bother going out of this country. Just like what is known to most of us all. Many of them, they just went into the army, trying to get quick money. Well, that's what we'll be talking, that's the Yahoo. But because of the love we have for our work, like what my brother said, I don't think, I have a love for this work, so I don't think anything can take me away from broadcasting. I'm 100% committed to bronze artworks. I'm committed. The reason why I'm committed is because of the support and encouragement I've been getting from people like Enochi and some other friends around. They'll be encouraging us just to keep us in the business. You see, by the time you produce and there's no market or no person is coming to buy, you won't be encouraged to continue. So that's what we need, a good market for our products, or any way we can get support, or maybe an outlet, it could be here or overseas. Even then, most of the exhibitions are B2 outside the station. We are, let us say, self-effort. Only one the federal government sponsored me through the Nigeria Sport Promotion Commission. But then, it used to be easy. This time, no support from the government, so it's not encouraging. We are not really encouraged to continue. Again, we're talking about a good street. A good street is exclusively for broadcasting, not for fiber or. But by the time you enter a good street, right from the first start, the first thing you notice are just something like fiber, not bronze. And after the oasis in Benin are dominated by gate powers. So broadcasting is shutting down. That's not the truth. But number one, if care is not taken, in the next 10 to 15 years, broadcasting is going to extinction. Starting from myself, I have 2 sons. My sons are supposed to continue after me, just like the way I took after my father. But none of them are, they are not willing to, the interest is lost. The interest is not there. So, if my children can, I've seen it. I try to talk to them because they even see the progress I've been through these artworks, but still they are not interested. I'm using myself as a reference. If you should go to a good street, in the witness, even let us start for a chief custodian, chief leader. How many of his sons are doing these bronze works? I don't think they can bring up one of his sons that can continue after him. So my fear is that if care is not taken, or if things are not put in place to encourage the ones that are practicing now, in the next 10, 15 years, broadcast will go into a station. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your very candid opinion, contribution. I would like to call 3 persons from the audience to make quick contribution, and then we close this lab for today. And so, if there's anybody who really wants to do so, I will invite you. If not, I'll have to take the liberty of choosing people to make contributions. So, is anybody who has any questions or any contributions about? Okay, good. So, we have a female participant. Please just introduce yourself and make a contribution. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Osa's Destiny. There's Osara and okay, I'm an artist. Actually. Alright, my question, not a question, not a contribution. Because I still see myself as a growing artist and still got to learn every day. Okay, now the market is a bit challenging, although they're trying to make things suitable for art through NFT and cryptocurrency. I don't know what it is. What do you do to make myself? But now, I'm a growing artist. Seeing that very few Nigerian artists and with what they do, what they have passion with. Let's say you go to a place now, due to the part you read books about art, you see how beautiful it is. You have the passion, this dying talent in you, and you're like, well, I can do more than this. Okay, I can bring this and make something good and all. But then when you go out there, you're trying to meet up to that expectation and all. But then people around you are discouraging you, either by losing value or maybe instead of them pricing, or maybe this is how much it is, and then they're telling you, no, we can't afford this or so. And you know how much you put into that work. What, I don't know how to put this thing. What do you have to tell us, or what should we do as a growing artist now to keep that passion there? Because I see myself as, sometimes I wake up and I'm doing something, I put it out there in the internet, and then someone is telling me otherwise, and my passion is dying. But then I look back, I see my mom encouraging me, my dad is there too, encouraging me, and then I got friends that encourage me too. And I'm like, okay, fine. But then, I don't know if it's going to stay that long. Okay, like the man that came out here now, he said something that he doesn't see his children practicing what he is doing now. There was this passion in him when he was younger to practice from his dad. So after his dad now, he continued that, right? But now his children now, they're seeing that passion, but then because of how the country has adapted to Western stuff and all, they want quick money and all, so they can't really put so much effort without that effort back again. So I don't know, what do you have to tell us? Just keep us there or do us? So I don't know, you get me, right?
Okay, that's a very good question, and it's an existing question because, of course, a lot of us, I'm using us right now, a lot of practicing artists, we struggle through these things because at the end of the day, as much as you want to do what you love, you also want to survive from what you do. If I am producing works and I'm enjoying the work I'm doing and I can't afford my basic need, I will be forced to drop it and do something else. That is very understandable. Now the question is, just like what I didn't get his name, what he said about bronze and the existing culture and the fact that the younger generation are not picking it up and all of that. Well, I think that we still have that problem in education because for a child growing up, okay, when he's talking about his own children, what about other families, other normal child that is not even in that lineage, that does not have anything about goals in his life, even as a graduate, and you are a Nigerian and you are a Benin child, and you don't know so much about these things. I am not from Benin, but I place bronze work in my heart like it's gold. I love it. And I love it because I was exposed to it early. I read about it. I got more interested because I read about it because I was exposed early. These are the things we don't have now. From when they make medicine, I buy books for my children and you hear anatomy, make anatomy fun. Make medicine fun for a 5-year-old child. So a 5-year-old child already knows so much about anatomy, so much about brain surgery. But then nobody is talking to them about our culture because they don't know. So, of course, these are the things we discuss about education. And for us that are practicing and the market is, the only thing I will advise is that we should study more. We should not just be restricted to practicals. You should understand what you're doing because I remember when I decided to go fully into curating. As a practicing artist, I got confused. I couldn't practice for months because I didn't even know what to do. Because I want to produce a work that will be able to sell. So you'll be surprised that there is this group dictating what each and every one of us should be doing. So you have to choose. What do you want? Do you want to make money fast? They will tell you. We have galleries that promote artists. Promote yourself, first of all, before practice. Read. Promote yourself, your personality, your work. Research. Don't just be in your studio and paint all day without finding out what is going on out there. You have to gain understanding apart from the practical works that you do. Further education, for example. When we finished first degree in Fine and Applied Art, I remember when I went for my master's, I told my friend, I said, we had not gone to school. It's now that we are going to school. Because first degree seemed to us like nonsense, like we were not taught anything. Do you understand? You can imagine how, and people don't want to really hear this. They tell you, I have to go back to school. No, they don't want to because everybody just wants quick money. But then there is a process to these things. Learn, develop yourself, promote yourself, listen, research, put yourself out there, go to galleries, just promote yourself. Being in a gathering like this.
I want to quickly add something. We all define different ways. Why are you an artist? The only reason you practice art is to make money, then you should do what the market wants and forget how you feel, if that is the only reason. I tell people that the only films I do are the films that I alone can do. If there is a story that does not touch on what is very dear to me, and I think anybody can do it, why should I express myself and do that story? Someone else will do it. But there are some ideas you have, there are some stories you have that will give you sleepless nights, that you will research for years, and they will keep staring at you. Every single day you see a reason to make it. And that is more than profit. You can make it and not make profit and you still be happy. So just ask yourself, what makes me an artist? Why am I an artist? And that is one. There are some things you do now that people may not appreciate. But your grandchildren will be proud of you because you made that work. Because people will make references to it and say, wow, our grandmother was an artist and she made this work and we are proud of her. So these things are very important. And the last thing I want to say that is also very important is the fact that you should be with people that think like you. You will be discouraged if you find yourself amongst people that do not think like you do, that do not share similar values like you. And no matter how exciting, no matter how great your works are, if you go to people that do not appreciate art, you'll be discouraged and go on to something else. Thank you very much.
I just want to add from the business sense, just like our big brother said, the only thing that will make the children want to come back, look at what they have left, is when money starts coming. If tomorrow you hear that, oh, metaverse, they are not selling bronze for 1 million. Some people will come, whether you're in America, you say, my papa did do that one here, they will come back. Because one thing we have done is all over the world, desiring influences passion for some people. Now, the reason why we are all here is to make sure that we create a platform where we glamorize what we are doing. I'm telling you, the main reason why, if we have, see Alumaco, it's not what is trending now. Everybody is now a builder. Even my younger brother is building house. Everybody want to come because why? They feel that they just do a little thing, they get hundreds of thousands. Okay? I tell you, if tomorrow is not pipe, all of them will own them. So how do we do that? Let's think. How do we create desires from our artwork? If we are showing our movies, wherever platform, people are not having like all these works. Some people will start buying. Once the demand is there, people gravitate towards meeting the market and the demand. The reason why I'm saying is this, because when we talk about this marketing, it's a function of user experience, technology, and business. I am in that business. Like, I sat down with our CEO today. February 14th is Valentine. We're already thinking about how we're going to make some millions. From where? From the pockets of some people that you think don't have the money. How do we get them? To create their desire, to meet their desire. They all have it. And once we do that, they will bring the money. So artists should look for what do these people want, desire. You get now, it has metamorphosed. People now create desire for you. Your app, they don't wait for you before the market is find the market and meet it. Now they create the market. You will just come and get it. Thank you.
I'm not going to sound like a motivational speaker, but your question is very interesting and one that I've had to answer several times. I've even discussed with Mr. Enote, and like he is doing presently, seeking young minds, changing their perspective about work, career, professionalism, and making success. I've also begun to think of the young persons in my area of expertise. I'm working with some 6 or 5 young people now, saying, look, it is possible. If you've ever watched this movie, 3 Idiots, if you've ever watched it, it's one movie my kids like watching again and again. The last sentence in that movie says, pursue excellence and success will follow. I don't know how anybody wants to make success, wants to be successful, when you are not looking at details. You're not trying to. Mr. Enote is not the only contemporary artist of his age. I know about 5 of them. Why is it different? How does it get all the invitation around? Everybody that's coming to Benin wants to get to come to our studio because he's doing something exceptional. Sorry, I hope I'm not online. Let me do the African man style. I hope I'm not online. I'm online? Okay. Yes, the African man style. Why is it that many of us don't think outside the box? We are so conventional. Like, I'm an artist. She has said it. You want to make contemporary works. What do you want to add to it? He just said it. He makes movie only he would do. I'm the only one that is interested in studying that thing all of you hate. Benin cultural history. I want to know why they are doing Olokun. I want to know why they are doing Shango. You are not interested in making an artwork that depicts Shango, I'm sure. You are not interested because they will not take it to your house. But I tell you, a piece of work that depicts Olokun and Shango, this age and time, might sell billions. Wow, he said. Yes, he's interested. He's a businessman. He will want to show it in such a way that he's speaking about African cultural and religious values. Yes, now that's taken over from me.
I want to contribute because an artist who has been practicing for over 25 years, I think it's important that we share experiences that can encourage those who are coming behind us. When I started painting, or I started practicing, there were about 3 galleries in Lagos. 3. They were all one was in the boys' quarter, one was in the boys' quarter, 2 were in private homes. So, and you know how it is. If somebody is selling Toyota has Mercedes, and it has Honda. If the Toyota is flying off the shelf, the person just keep pushing Toyota. So if you bring up a Mercedes that might come out, sell that Toyota, he doesn't want to know. You don't take that risk. So that's how it was in those days. Oh, these artists, these are the names we know. So when you come, they'll tell you, you're not really, come on that time. By the time they tell you, come on that time, you yourself will know that, okay, this one not ready. But we didn't stop. We kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And in 1995, there was an announcement that the palace was setting up the Great Benin Centenary Committee to plan events to commemorate the 100th year of the British invasion of Benin in 1997. To be ahead, I wrote to the committee that I would like to produce works as part of their activities. And they said, no, they don't want to commission me, but they will write me a letter to give me a franchise. So I now wrote to them again to say, okay, can I go ahead and produce works, and if you give me a franchise, I can organize exhibitions in Lagos, in Benin, in Abuja, in London, in America, everywhere. I'll get some other artists, connecting. And give me the letter. So armed with that letter, I got some of my friends. I was in Benin, I was based in Benin. I had a studio on here about. I rented a duplex. They were practicing there. And so I thought about it, and then I went to Lagos. My mom has a hotel in Lagos, it's a very hotel, so I just spoke to her. She gave me a space in the hotel. So I invited some other friends, some variety, Peter Libri, Oluwajari, all these guys. And they all came around. Bob Rubber, Lincoln, Ehiobiyan. We all congregated there. And I told them about the centenary. That we need to produce Benin ones, how we can be involved in these things and all of that. Only about 3 or 4 other. In fact, most of those guys who were in the studio, who were working with us there, we were not really interested. But 3 of them became part of the exhibition. Because, I mean, I just turned professional. I was just starting, so I'm sure they thought, this guy, I don't want to do anything like this, you know? But we produced the works. And I started writing to Goethe Institute, I wrote to banks, and I was writing to over 400 institutions. Only Goethe Institute agreed to give us a space in 1996 to hold an exhibition, because our idea was that we produce this work, we would travel with it all over the place, and then end up in Benin in 1997, when the whole event was going on. And so that's how we tried. We did all these things. We had one in Italori, we had one in Goethe Institute, and in all of that, we sold one work, 1 out of 30 works for those years. And then we now came to Benin, and we sold 2 works. You understand? But one thing I want to say is that, who is an artist? What is the basic problem I found out amongst art schools and artists? The biggest culprits are art schools. They will take a creative person and they will put the person in a box. You're a painter, you're a sculptor, you're a textile, you're this, you're that. You're an artist, you're a creative person. You're a painter, you're a sculptor, you're a singer, you're a textile designer, and everything. After all, a comedian. We do comedy, then go and do movies. Then come and release music. Everybody is so talented. But why should an artist now be a painter? Finish. Picasso produced over 60,000 works. Paintings, sculptural works, backdrop wall. Me, let me tell you, I've done voiceover. One time, I was feeding my family with voiceovers. Everybody was buying a painting because I was doing Benin works. And that time, they were like, who is painting Benin works? What are we doing? But this was just coming to me. 1995, 1997, 98. Guess what? All those guys who did not want to be part of the exhibition at that time, they clapped, they're clapping for me now. Now they're reaching out to me to say, how can we do it? But cameras are not. Just a go here, put us inside now. Meanwhile, at the time I was talking to them, they were bigger names. So if they had entered, they would have been, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they were just put away. But today, we need artifacts and whatever. It's on their CDs. So if everybody wants to talk about Benin whatever, they'll say, I'm just talking to you. Who am I? Now let me give you a story about this place. In 2016, we campaigned for the government, and this page is for youth mobilization and volunteers. So all the sockets on the ground is where we put tables and computers. So the volunteers were to be in every place they live, not come. You are living ouchie, doing ouchie. Don't leave your street, so you don't need money. Go and campaign on your street. If you campaign to 10 people, collect their names, their numbers, their social media, whatever, and send to us here. We enter into our database. And from here, start following up. Send them messages. I don't know how you do today. This is good afternoon, man. And they're like, this people, how do you know my name? You know, that kind of. So when he ended, and the governor won, back to Lagos and leave this government. So they're going to fight for commissioner or fight for one position. I'm not I'm going to do that. Let's go and take money. And this is what I really want to do. So like, the art culture here itself, the art scene here is dead. That time, I got to ginger it. Because by the time I moved to Lagos, my studio was the largest 24-hour studio in the whole of Lagos. So it contributes to the growth of art. Not only in Lagos, but in Nigeria. Nas, who is here today, did his IT in my studio 1 year. 2003. So those of you who are doing IT now, who are here now, he did his IT in my studio in Lagos in 2003. So it's not today. I mean, creative platforms. One of the IT guys who did IT that time is now the head of art department in Covenant University. And there are many others in different places. Do you understand? So the point is, when we finish campaigning, because I played a major role in the campaign, a lot of my friends here were waiting. What's going on? I said, no. Just do it for here. So they were the ones telling me later that we were, see, you don't crazy. Say, wait, the position, this guy don't do art. What did they do this guy? He don't lock himself on that place. So at that time, I thought to myself, I'm going to create a space that will act as a platform to attract people from all over the world. Then it has to be a spectacle. It has to be something that when you enter, you're like, what's going on? And so, this wall. See that blue wall there? I started that blue wall. I was working on that blue wall here, and working on that yellow wall simultaneously. As this was getting completed, as I was completing that, I started working on that one. And as I was getting to there, I started working on that one as well. And then on these pillars, fill them up with water and everything. Because I realized that if you bring an important person, and they come here and say, you see, this place is the studio, what I'm planning, I will do one fantastic work here, I'm going to do another fantastic work there. You say, just need help, you have to give assistance, anything else. They didn't take me seriously. But by the time they enter, so when ambassadors, all kinds of people started coming, those are my friends now. Congratulations. We are really proud of you. Because let me tell you, you see, you're great. When you say, what's wrong with this guy? But now, you can see that. You know what we're doing. You were going somewhere. That is, you understand? So, what I'm making is, like you said, you have to do the work. You see, don't think that when I was working here, there was hunger too. But another thing I want to say is, stop limiting yourself. Why not on TikTok? Every artist first, creative person, get your creative, there's something that you're thinking. Why not on TikTok? Limiting it. Why? Why not on Instagram? Why are you not building followers? Do you know the amount of passive income you can make from TikTok or you can make from Instagram if you build followers? Why are you not acting movies? What stops you from acting movies? If you're a funny person and you will only stop at making your friends laugh, talent. You're wasting money, you're losing money. Why are you not in the forefront of technology? Why? NFTs are out. What do you know about NFTs? What? The amount of reading I've done on NFTs in the last 2 months is unbelievable. They're not picking in masters. But I'm reading on my own. And let me tell you, very difficult affairs. I will jab, maybe it's not my generation, maybe not this. When I ask myself, what is it? That's what this thing. Well, let's go again. Boom. Anyway, that's what about NFT. Boom. Instagram, I'm following all of them. And now, let me tell you what's happening right now. I have at least 4 major corporations who are running after me to come and get involved in NFT projects. Just because we had a discussion. By the time I broke it down to them, they told me they know I didn't like this before. Can you collaborate with us? can you do this? I show you my phone, you see, we are pursuing it every day. You understand? I also do music. Yesterday, or for the past 1 week, there's a group that been pursuing me. They said, there's something we want to do, we want to old school, we don't want the old music to die, so we want to blah blah, we want you to come and host a show, and then you do some ritual songs, you do this, you do that. You understand? You have to allow your talent to breathe, because you need to make money. At the time, I was doing voiceovers for radio, for adverts. At the time, I learned animation on a laptop. And you know, that laptop, this was 2002. Just imagine how slow laptops were. Just imagine how slow. When you do all the whatever, when it's rendering, I will leave it. 3 days, it's still rendering. 3 days. There's sometimes you render and crash. Or you hook, you hang, you have to turn it off, you lose everything. Start to give. And then the person you are bringing for you told you, I'm bringing next week. Bring this advert. I'm not going to pay you. But when they see the work, they'll be like, what's going on? Let me give you one interesting instance. One day, I just left the studio. It was coming to Christmas. Hunger. But not so any work. And it was coming to Christmas. We were broke. I just told my friend there. Let's go to Marina. So what do you want to do? So let us go. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to UBA today. I'm going to tell them something. What gave me the idea? Western Union were doing Igwe, branding the palace, branding everywhere by Igwe. Then, only one bank was doing Western Union. And so UBA came with MoneyGram. Each bank, not like now that Western Union, no banks. In those days, one bank brought Western Union, so they were the only ones. So UBA brought MoneyGram. So I now went to UBA and told them, I can brand, the palace is branded by Western Union. But the remaining part of the city is not branded. I can help you brand the remaining part of the city. I can come up with drama, I can come up with street parade, come up with things just to make MoneyGram strong here too. They said, hey, really? Okay, you know what? On Tuesday, our agency are coming. You come with your plan, and then we'll have a meeting with them and we'll see what they can do. So when I got back, flyers, I did designs for flyers, billboards, and banners, 25 different designs for them to choose from. I gave proposals, I wrote all kinds of things, I wrote about the drama, I told them that I would bring Don Pedro, who was then very famous for stage plays. So I bring Don Pedro to come stage a play, we will run it for 4 weekends. We will do this, we will do that. I put all them together, and I went for the meeting. So this agency came in, you see the guy, with pompous and arrogant. 2 of them just came in. Not through their file on the table, sat down. As if, who is the off that? So the bank guys were like, okay, so let's see your plans and everything. So they talked about Lagos, this is what they're going to do in Lagos, continue Lagos, what they're going to do in Port in Abuja. They talked between Benin, they talked. They brought out 2 designs. When I brought up my own, I got here are the designs, also choose from on there and this, you do this, you do that, bring up petrol, we do this, we do the street parade, we bring 6 trailers, we do this, we do a street carnival, where the agency guy said, well, all these things we have to consider them, we're not very, the bank guy said, I have a suggestion. You agency, face Lagos, face Abuja, face everywhere else. Leave Benin for this job now, please. Please come with me. And guess in 1995, they gave me 2.8 million to come and do that. 2.8 million in 1995. Right? You also bring solar power. From nothing. From nothing. But the value proposition. That's what they were talking about. That's what they were talking about. The value proposition. What I was offering them, they normally pay like 50 million to the agency for that to happen. And then when they came for the opening, when they saw the amount of things that were like that we planned, they approved more money. They paid me an extra 1 million. And now I'm like, we brought R&D, this was the Domitila. She was look at those people. The federal brought them, the hotel there, the everything. And then when it came to the set, when they saw the set we built, they feared. You understand? So this is what I'm trying to tell you that don't limit yourself. If you are painting and you're not making money from it, keep painting. But ask yourself, what is value? Is it cakes? If I bake cake for you, you raise money. I'm not one that's going to mix and bake. I'm just going to put the people who can do it together. I'll get a sculptor, I'll get everybody to bring the shapes and everything, the colors. The colors we are. I will not mix the colors. And we'll start decorating. I can't be finished. You know that. Each one is different. So we have to look at what we're doing. Do you understand? Get to other things. Every successful person should have at least 6 or 7 streams of income. That's the way it works. So stop portraits. Offer portraits. And stop overpricing yourself. You're pricing yourself to the market. But ask me how much is this portrait if I have let down. Why? You did it with this hand. Yeah? 20K. They give you 5, it's not 100K. It's not 100K in your back pocket. And if everybody sees it, they're coming again. You do that until we used to sell painting for 2K for 1K back. Not small painting, though. And then there's something that I keep telling artists who are here, which I should share with you as well. Strategy is very important. When you're planning to do big canvases, okay, good, that's your own expression. What you buy one day. But in the meantime, take paper. Full sheet of paper. How much is color paper? Full sheet of color paper. How much? Artist. Color paper, watercolor paper, full sheet of watercolor paper, how much? Okay, color paper, the normal color paper, how much? No, I'm talking about that big sheet that they sell in Art World. Color paper that you can cut into 4. And you still get sizable sizes. 150, 250, 300. 450. 1 grammage. Okay, 450. You cut it into 4. Let me tell you what we used to do. And you saw it. While we are doing the big canvases and all this, what we used to do with that? We buy a packet of wash of poster color. Poster color, the cheap one, made in China, and we all the students in primary and secondary school use. You buy it. You want to have different colors. Then you buy that paper, cut into 4. By the time I pieces some works of those 4 papers, and then go and glass it. 10K each one. How much is the time material? The time material would not exceed 1,500 naira. So by the time you have 20 or 30 piled up, when you have your big canvases, when people come in, how much is this canvas? Say 800K, 400K. This one's look interesting. How much is this one? Say 10K. I'll take this one. It's not 50K. You have to paint on shirts. You don't have to think about something. Leverage your talent and stop boxing yourself up. You are an artist, you are creative, you can do anything. And a billionaire once said the secret to being rich is going to tell you, can you do the rocket to go to the moon? You can answer yes first. Don't say no. Anything ask you where that's my field. What is your field? This man is a medical doctor making movies. I studied economics and statistics. I never studied art. I just built on my passion. But the amount of books I read, I should be doing PhD. Art books. Jack, till tomorrow, Jack. If I see any artist that is very creative on Instagram, I follow the artist who drink all his works and her works. Look for videos, anything you're doing. Working. In Hamburg, they told me, okay, my work was part of the exhibition. They told me to come and perform. You need performance. I said, okay, I'm going to perform. But where are the people? Where are the cultural groups? None. So I saw some Benin women in Hamburg. I was introduced to them. Cleaner, they have other jobs. I just call them, told them how much I'm going to pay them. Rehearse them for 3 days. We get drama. So we got some Yoruba boys who play in church or whatever. I taught them the Benin situation. I got some cultural people in Benin to record some songs and send to me the WhatsApp. I formed a group, sent it to them, so everybody will rehearse. And my time will perform. Eh? If you are not, you won't understand. It was a spectacle. Do you understand? I didn't stop only at that too. There was costumes, design, how to create some genge. Be genge. You are not genge, nothing will happen. Check all successful artists, they are genge. And then stop colonizing yourself. You are going for an event, you dress the man and sneakers, you looking. No, not like Jay-Z. It is not carrying dreadlocks. Or you see the shirt and the tie. You see the outfit. Or the canvas like matching. Not like, yeah, look at all these people. Look at, come back home, look at the comedians. I never say comedian who is not wearing suits or sharp native. So what is making jokes to you that are creating luxury goods? You might get slipper, you want to director, you're looking scruffy, you're doing anyhow. I go to the exhibitions. When you go to the exhibitions, you look like riffraffs. Just see artists looking like riffraffs. It's not correct. If you go to exhibition abroad, but they are the ones that bring color into this life. Artists are the ones that bring color. Because the lawyer wears black suit and white shirt and it's sky. You cannot wear anything else. Hey, don't talk to the if you are white people, whatever, not with that people that agree. Everybody can have their uniform. Artists, they bring color. We are the salt of the whole thing. So how can you not come and not look into it? It just does not work. I'm telling you, if I enter any room, you will know. Person there. You must know. And you must think it. You must look at the person when they finish it. You must have one thing. You must. It's not going to carry dreadlock. You must back it up. And you have to be mindful of perception. In our society, abroad, you carry dreadlock, no problem. But in our society, they look at you as a ruffian. So you need to balance it. And when you get that dreadlock, which is clean, it looks nice, and then you take it, you land. People are talking now, you're going to be a banker, you're supposed to be an artist, so you say, you decking, man, you have to do it, otherwise they disrespect you. Can't tell somebody all the time, look at your shoe. You can all see 50K before we do that. Issue. It won't work. And it doesn't have to be expensive. This shoe I'm wearing, I got it from some Nigerian designer. He didn't just escape me now. 20K, 25K. You understand? For search, not have the art to look for quality. You snag it. Just make sure what you are doing is exceptional. Do not be ordinary. Because if you are ordinary, everything about you will be ordinary. If you want to be extraordinary, then you have to make the effort. It's effort to So, I think we've had a very interesting day. Let me especially thank all of you for coming. Without your involvement, there's no way we can be talking to ourselves, sharing these ideas. I also want to thank all the discussants who led the event this evening. Thank you very much for your participation. We hope to do more as time goes on. We'll notify you. Please follow our social handles, Edo Global Art Foundation, on Instagram, so that you can be updated about events that are coming up. And we're going to be having a lot of collaborative events this year because the German government has pledged to work through us for the benefit of artists in Nigeria. So we'll be as open as possible, give everybody a fair chance. As you can see, we're always giving everybody a fair chance. Whether you're a resident artist here or not, we always make sure we give everybody a fair chance. Creativity cannot be parochial. Otherwise, it will not be creativity anymore, to something else. So thank you very much for coming. We have some refreshments. Just make sure you get your meat, and then we call it a day. If you have any questions, you can circulate privately, talk to any of the practitioners, and take advantage of networking. Well, beat them, collect their numbers, talk to them. You never know. My phone is full of numbers and contacts with people, and I think it will be important one day, and always they become important one day. Thank you.